Electoral Commission boss Simon Byabakama warned political parties against embarking on an early campaign frenzy. But is this even a tenable outcome? Already, vocal mobilizers are organizing birthday parties, deemed campaigns by the opposition, while the official Yellow Camp is pushing the Muzei Tavakumain slogan. Meanwhile, in the opposition, turbulence has engulfed the Blue Camp, and the troubled Green Party remains at war with its president, who recently enjoyed a homecoming.
So that wherever you go, we bless you with harmony and harmonization.
For its part, the Red Camp has been watching events in silence, recruiting from other opposition parties with a measure of consistency. So we ask, how is the political terrain shaping up ahead of the 2026 elections? Is Uganda's opposition able to mobilize in time to give the ruling NRM a run for its money when Byabakama's time for campaigning finally comes? This is The Frontline.
Look at me.
Frontline.
Welcome to the Frontline tonight. My name is Simon Kagwanjala. Of course, it's time for us now to do a sneak peek or a forecast of what 2026 holds amidst all the uncertainties. Well, is it going to be like just any other election, or it could be a totally different election? We'll be delving into more of these questions. And what does Byabakama present to the country in the roadmap where Ugandans, the taxpayers, are going to part with 1.3 trillion shillings to run the presidential and parliamentary election, slated for between Jan 12th and February 9th. What should we be looking at? What are the likely scenarios? Well, I'm joined by the frontliners, Honorable Hon.Ssemuju Nganda, Member of Parliament, Chira Municipality, and spokesperson for the Forum for Democratic Change. Good to have you.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I am fair.
You're fair?
Yeah.
What transpired in today's press conference? It, to me, gave me an impression that finally you've parted ways with the headquarters.
No, the press conference was by members of the FDC National Executive Committee to tell the FDC leaders and members not to participate in Nandala and Amuriat Shamu elections. That was the gist. Because
a true manifestation of two FDCs now.
Doing so would mean that you are joining a group that is on its way to Museveni. But the leaders at the press briefing should have had an internal discussion in the National Executive Committee, which Amriat can't call because he lost the support in NEC, so he cannot call NEC. That's why he said, no, we can freely, instead of frisking muscles, we can speak to the FDC there through the media. And we did, and we are very happy that the message was
I'm looking at a homeless faction of the FDC that goes to hotels, goes to sharing hall. Is this the impression that you're creating?
So what is at the headquarters?
It is the seat of the party.
The FDC got to that headquarters much later. In politics, what is important is not the headquarters. Kyagulanyi had a campaign without a headquarters. He was actually using his own facility. Was the FDC more successful because it has an headquarters?
Well, very interesting. Perhaps that could be one of the pointers to the 2026 discussion. Honorable Winnie Kiza, a frontliner and former woman member of parliament for Kasese. Good to have you.
Thank you, and good evening, viewers.
What are you picking from the political radar?
Everything is at stake.
Well, very interesting. Well, tonight our guest is the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, Louis Rubongoya. Good to have you and a very good evening.
Good evening to you and a very good evening to the viewers.
How is it Kamocha or Kavule now?
Both. Our headquarters still sits at Kamocha, but we are renovating our premises at Kavule and we shall soon be moving there.
So what's trending at Kamocha?
We are in the struggle to remove the dictatorship in Uganda, and that's what we are still involved in. That's everything we do is really aimed at that, changing our country for better and changing the lives of our people.
Well, our frontliner, the government spokesperson and the executive director at the media center, Mr. Fono Pondo, is joining us tonight. A very good evening.
Thank you, Kabaka Njagala.
No. I'm Kagwanjala, for the record.
No, I thought you had now assumed the name of Kabaka Njagala.
No.
And talking of Secretary Generals, I think Secretary Generals are getting into trouble. I hope my young brother will not get into deeper trouble.
I thought Noop is safe. Or your overtures are now stretching to Noop.
I have been reading some things as well, but
They could,
let's
maybe
wait.
they have started with
let's
it.
wait.
So your onslaught is now targeting FDC, rather Noop.
No, we don't have to target them. The internal management style brings the implosion usually. But they will, of course, blame other people, especially the NRM. You have had my brother Ssemuju. Everything is NRM engineering it. Nyanjura is chased from a meeting, is the Museveni. Somebody does this. When they receive money, it's the Museveni. When they don't have the money, it is also Museveni who's denying them. So, it's okay.
Well, on my very extreme end is a very good friend of mine, Dr. Tanga Odoi, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission of the National Resistance Movement Party. Good to have you, and a very good evening.
Good evening, my good friend.
You seem
good
to be in
evening,
high spirits
honorable
tonight.
panelists. And
This
thank
one
you
who is
for
responsible for
thank you
cheating
for the
election.
coronation ceremony, covering the coronation ceremony up to the last dot.
Well, interesting. Well, we get straight to the issue of the night. Honorable Winnie Kiza, what comes into your mind when the chairperson of the Electoral Commission unveils an electoral roadmap, but then cautions players not to start going around campaigning early? And then at the same time, the Minister for Justice remains vague on electoral reforms. What does this speak to you?
You know, I'm not so sure whether this election will be different from other elections that have taken place in Uganda under Byamukama. I'm not so sure. The trend will still be the same. We have gone in elections and we have seen the forces all coming out to ensure that the game is not free and fair. So the roadmap is a welcome idea. A roadmap is a normal exercise that the Electoral Commission should do. We don't know how the Electoral Commission could forget bringing a roadmap and actualizing the roadmap for the LOC1 elections. In the current situation, if Byabakama is bringing a roadmap and he's already cautioning players, but we know that there are players who are already into the field, and those ones cannot be cautioned, then we doubt whether really we shall still have a free and fair elections, because that has been the issue in this country about elections. We have never had free and fair elections. The election is just geared towards bringing the same person whom the Secretary General of NUP talked about, the dictator. He's a player in the game. He's the linesman. He's an official at the same time. He's the one who has appointed the referee. So there will never be fairness, there will never be justice, which may never have.
So is there a reason to warm up to 2026?
I don't see any reason why we should even begin warming up. But because it is an exercise we should look forward to, we tell Ugandans, you never know, we may cause the changes that we want.
You tend to depict elections as a mere ritual.
It is a mere ritual for now. And I can say this without any fear of contradictions. Elections in Uganda becoming a mere ritual. You see electoral officials rigging their own election, and they are not even afraid, they are not even ashamed. We don't even know why we should keep wasting taxpayers' money that we are carrying out an election which is already predetermined. In fact, we are almost thinking that it is not an election, but an allocation. You go there knowing that these votes are allocated to so-and-so is going to be a leader. This one, by all means, must not be a leader, and it happens. It has happened in many constituencies where DRA forms are cancelled of candidates where they are supposed to win an election. So unless the Electoral Commission really styles up and assures Ugandans that the electoral process will be different from the other elections that we have had, well, I have every feeling that we don't even have to warm up for those elections.
With all these misgivings, is 2026 anything Ugandans should be looking forward to?
You know, many Ugandans must be even getting afraid that 2026 is getting close at the corner. If you asked the relatives of the people who were killed in 2020, they will tell you that if the same is going to happen, then we would rather not have an election. Go to the political prisoners who are still in cells. For me, when I look at my own people, I just imagine those people were killed because Kasese did not vote for President Museveni, period. Nothing else. So if that is what an election means, then we would rather just say, let the dictator stay until God relieves us, then we can sort ourselves later.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Tanga Odoi, what in your opinion is at stake as Byabakama announces or unveils a roadmap for 2026?
Well, I think I was there yesterday when they were unveiling.
Don't you know?
When they were unveiling the roadmap. I'm actually glad that this roadmap has come out early. And like I did say yesterday, I want to say it today to viewers and members of the party that we are gearing up to starting preparation, because once an electoral process starts,
They are beginning.
we should actually be the leaders, we should be, to give the people clear message about what we want to do. We should not be the type of what I'm hearing from my sister here, that there's nothing,
You are part of the perpetrators.
there's no need for us to go for election, and tomorrow you present yourself. Because the best way and the constitutional way of changing government, as far as I know, is through elections in a democratic dispensation.
Well,
If you want to change it through a coup, then the legislators are here, former and current.
well, how is this announcement from Byabakama finding the NRA? In what shape is the party ahead of 2026?
We had a very lengthy meeting today, wherein we presented, because I was the one who actually was there. The Secretary General had other assignments after coming from Russia. I was actually the one giving them the summary of what took place. And it is now our duty as a party to come up with a roadmap, not in tandem, but to space ourselves and find that we do all our electoral activities without having to rock the boat. We have, Justice Byabakama disclosed to us that they have 1,908, I think, positions to fill. 1,908 positions to fill. In NRM, we have elections which go up to over 2.5 million. Because we have the structure election, we should continue to give us leaders who we call flag bearers. We have structure elections to give us the presidential candidate. So we have massive election right from the grassroots. And so, as chair of NRM Electoral Commission, I want to use this opportunity to tell members of NRM to get ready. We are going to prepare candidates for LOC1 so that the time government gets money, we have them. We are going also to prepare candidates at different levels. But I liked the roadmap because the roadmap seems to stretch to start in 2024. I don't have a copy here. And that is a call to all political parties, serious political parties, to start preparation. I think by that time, even the feuds and the petty squabbles within some political parties maybe will have settled. And they play, but within NRM, we are getting ready.
So the roadmap is timely?
No, the roadmap is timely. I liked it. Don't ambush us. Give us time.
How about the uncertainties surrounding the much hyped electoral reforms?
Well, I think one of that question came from, was it not the man from Kosovo Party, but I think someone from DP? And the answer was given by Justice Byabakama, that we still have time. And good enough, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Honorable Robert Mao, was there. And he says we are going to follow up this and make sure that we have these reforms. Especially,
these suckers,
I'm talking about what they
suckers,
said.
The Secretary General of DP asking the President of DP about electoral reforms. Because Siranda was asking.
May I answer my question so that
DP
I give
asking DP.
May I complete my statement?
And the professor is very happy.
May I complete my statement? About what happens in DP, that's not my role for now. Except if it comes to the play field for all of us to watch the data, to watch how they actually clean their dirty linen in the public. If DP has a problem, that's an in-house. I'm talking about what you asked me. The question was forwarded to the President General of DP, who is also the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Reforms, and he assured the public that these reforms will come. It's not late. Well, but he also called on the leader of government business, the Right Honourable Prime Minister, to try to make sure they expedite. Actually, in the cabinet on Monday, he promised to raise it. And I think I was happy with it.
Well, thank you very much. Lewis, by the look of things, how deep are you reading into the roadmap of the Electoral Commission, and what does it suggest to the National Unity Platform?
Well, for starters, of course, it should concern everybody that the NRM is always gearing up for another ritual. When, for us who are truly interested in democracy in this country, see this as something that has just become a ritual for the regime to simply entrench itself. As you all know, dictatorships like Museveni's usually want to have elections for purposes of legitimizing themselves. And so that's why it's very painful to hear that they are going to spend over $1 trillion shillings to organize another election. In fact, before you even talk about a roadmap, the question of reforms which were, for example, recommended by the Supreme Court of this country in 2016 that have not been implemented up to now. So you have a Supreme Court, it had a case and determined that there are some recommendations which were very important. And if you look at those recommendations, they don't even go to the root of the problem that has happened in this country. But if any government worth its name would try at least to implement the decisions of the Supreme Court of the land, the recommendations.
Which reforms particularly do you want to be implemented?
Because, for example, one of the recommendations was this idea of bribery. They said no one should be giving donations during an electoral period, including the person who calls himself a president. But you saw in 2021, General Museveni went around launching markets, doing all sorts of things, giving hoes, doing all sorts of things, under the auspices of saying that he's a sitting president, and therefore he can still do his work. The Supreme Court clearly said that that is a form of bribery, and clearly said that the laws should be amended to bar any single person from engaging in such acts. Of course, they also talked about making individual public officials culpable, for their role. First of all, they should be clearly banned from being partisan, But most importantly, there should be culpability on their part. They should be punished if they engage in these kinds of things. And there are many other, of course, recommendations in terms of the number of days to be taken to file a petition, for example, a presidential election petition. There was a recommendation regarding if, for example, an election is annulled, it's not practical to have another election in 20 days as stated by the law, and other recommendations. But to see that the regime did not find it important to even implement these ones, because we've been talking about other structural reforms. For example, who appoints the Electoral Commission. The Supreme Court did not talk about that, but that's very, very important. That goes to the core. You know, you have Byabakama, whose history is well known in this country, with Dr. Chiza Besigye cases, etc., etc. And he's now the one presiding over an election where we are seeking to dislodge Gen 7. So for me, I think, and I want to agree with the Honorable Winnie Chiza, that the people who lost loved ones, the people whose close relatives are still in detention, us who are, you know, going through this every day, receiving all these people, we have missing people who were disappeared in the last election, who were taken away up to now. You don't know where they are. People like John Bosco Chibalama, John Damulida, Kanata Muhammad, and others, whose whereabouts are still unknown. And now they're saying, let's go into another electoral process. So
is boycotting or participating on the cards? Are you weighing anything?
From the outset, I want to say that my views, the views I'm expressing here are my personal views. The party is yet to sit to discuss, deliberate on the roadmap, and we take a decision. But we have been very clear that...
Don't you think it's too little too late for you to take a decision now?
No, we can take a decision at any time. Even when you've already been nominated, you can actually withdraw your candidature, as you know. So it's not too late. But the point is, we've also been very categorical why we participate in these elections. People have been asking us, why do you go to this by-election? There's a by-election going on, being prepared in Hoima, for example. Tanga Odoi here, you know the mayhem he has caused in all these by-elections that have been happening in this country. We are going into another by-election.
Is it Tanga
Odoi working with the military and police?
Of course, you've seen what has happened, what he did in Kasese, in Soroti,
yes,
in Oyam recently, and other places.
And Bukede.
So, and in Bukede and other places. But someone may ask, why then do you go into these elections? And we've been very clear that one of the reasons why we go into these elections is, first of all, to, you know, take our message to the people. Because as you know, although we have political parties in this country, yeah, you're not allowed to, even tomorrow if I want to do a rally in Mbarara or in Arua, I will be blocked. You've been seeing how the regime has been behaving. So these election activities sometimes give us an opportunity to take the message to our people, to also unveil our leaders, build their capacity, and prepare the nation, you know, charge the nation for what we believe is the correct way of changing government.
The Byabakama, who presided over an election that you claim to have won, is the same Byabakama who is going to be the chairperson at the helm of elections for 2026. Does it give you an idea of the outcome, the possible outcome? And
that's what I said. I already said that. Yeah, but you know, dictatorships are never taken down through their own willingness and that kind of thing. For us, we are mobilizing our people, asking them to rise up and reject this madness. You know, you cannot have the kind of election that we had in 2021. You saw what happened. And now they're just preparing another phase of that. So I think our message, even like I said before, we sit to take decisions on the nature and whether we'll participate and all these other things. The most important thing is for us to speak to our people, to the people of Uganda, that we live under a military regime, and we should do everything possible right now, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, to change government so that we can have free and fair elections in this country.
Thank you very much. Very fresh from Russia. I forgot to welcome you back, by the way. What does it mean for a country to go into an election with a lot of questions without answers, especially on reforms? And you get that sense of deja vu that perhaps what has been happening is likely to happen in 2026.
Well, even without having gone to Russia, I would still be holding the same head and brain. So don't impute. Don't impute that, that perhaps I've borrowed some. No. First of all these are excuses. For those of you who are younger, I can see on my left you are younger. There is no elections in Uganda since NRM came that have not attracted misgivings.
Correct.
In 1987, when we were asked to go for RC elections, the Iron Lady of UPC, as she was then known, Emat Cecilia Ogwan, asked UPC people, and they said the UPC people don't participate in the election. They stayed away, actually, the prominent. When we were expanding the NRSC in February 1989, she did the same thing. When we were going for the CA elections, there was a big dispute in the NRSC, which was the interim parliament, whether NRSC should be converted into the Constituent Assembly, so that we deal with what my young brother is talking about. We don't waste taxpayers' money. And eventually, we settled in the NRSC that we should elect a completely new body to debate and promulgate the Constitution. So that has been. When we were going for the CA election in 1993, Milton Obote, then in Lusaka in exile, wrote, I still have the letter, instructing UPC members not to participate in the CA elections. That's actually when it dawned on Cecilia Ogwan that the political train had left UPC. And she defied Obote, her, Ben Wacha, the Leto Kule Park, Agura Wori, and many others defied Milton Obote and participated in the election, and they won. And you know what happened? Milton Obote from Lusaka fired all of them, fired Cecilia Ogwan. That's when he actually appointed Dr. James Ronyarari as the interim chairman of UPC. As they say, the rest is history. As you know, my mother, Cecilia Ogwan, has continuously participated in these elections, organized by the monolithic dictatorship of Yoweri Museveni and NRM. So, what Robongo is saying is not new. The cliche they are using, not new.
Same rhetoric, different.
So I think what they are doing, like what Robongo is saying and what my sister Winnie is saying, partly is going to discourage their own would-be supporters, dampen their mood that elections are of no use. You remember in 2010, when we were doing the update of voters register, Kizza Besigye said elections, it can't change Museveni, can't remove him. He went and hid in Karamoja. He went and hid in Karamoja and updated his status from there, from Moroto. You remember they went with the Mao, Mao stayed away. Consequently, Mao did not qualify either as a voter or as a candidate. But Kizza Besigye did.
Qualified.
So, these are things we are used to. Now, let me turn to the question of the reform. Yes, there are reforms that are necessary, and the Prime Minister did make a commitment yesterday that by the end of this year, by December, there will be the cabinet will be introducing reforms. I want to believe, I have no reason to doubt the Prime Minister. They may not be the same reforms Honorable Winnie Kizza is thinking about, but it is in that parliament, therefore, that we expect the likes of Honorable Winnie Byanyima, or rather Winnie Kizza, the Robongoya's team, which is now the leader of opposition, to bring counter proposals in the committees, so that even the reforms is claiming that the Supreme Court directed will be brought. And if the framers of the Constitution had wished that the instructions of the Supreme Court become law.
Then why would
They would have become law as by the directive of the Supreme Court. There would be no need to go to Parliament. So the Supreme Court is like any other body in Uganda to make proposal. Its proposal cannot be assumed to be an order to the Parliament of Uganda to incorporate in the laws of Uganda. And I think when the justices made that finding or directive, they also knew very well that that was simply an opinion of the Supreme Court as a body.
Well,
now, the roadmap itself, first of all, the roadmap is already defined in the Constitution and the electoral laws of Uganda. It's not something new, except probably putting some specific time period for certain activities, which any reasonable political party or political group or even an individual who wishes to stand for election as an independent should be having in their mind, if I want to stand for member of parliament, what do I need to do? What do I need to have? You remember when Sebagala went to look for some Manila because he knew he did not have the equivalent of senior 6. He went and looked for Manila 2 years before, I think. So any reasonable political actor should not actually even wait for the Electoral Commission. So the Electoral Commission has done us, actually, in my view, a favor to give us its own roadmap, which then the other players should try to fit theirs into.
Well, thank you very much.
And in the case there are other issues, you can go back to the Electoral Commission and say, this period you have given is insufficient or is inconvenient. Can you readjust? And I think the Electoral Commission will be ready to open to other players, to all the players to take in their views.
Well, thank you very much. Honorable Ssemuju, by the pronouncement of the Electoral Commission, there is every impression that the stage is set. You are among the actors, and there are mixed voices. Some are saying elections are no longer making any sense, especially the likes of Kano Besigye. What, in the first place, do you make of the roadmap? And what do you feel about the current environment as we head to 2026?
Elections in Uganda have different elements. There is the element of money. That's why Tanga Odoi is very happy, because Museveni will give him money to organize NRM primaries, and there will be some apartments for him and his colleagues with whom they are serving Museveni. He told you he's very happy.
Huh?
The
elections are his cash cow.
Oh, you didn't see the excitement when he was saying, I'm very happy the roadmap for us, we are starting. Museveni will give him money.
wants me to cry.
To go and organize NRM primaries, and I said apartments will begin germinating in Kampala and Wakiso. Even for Museveni, the last election, Museveni's sister Kajubiri, the husband who is a German and was given a contract to run partially Uganda Printing and Publishing Corporation, had been given a contract of more than 200 billion shilling to print election materials in German and elsewhere. So even that family is happy, because another big enterprise is about has been unveiled. Museveni's Muko will go to print election materials. So the excitement by that corner of Tanga Odoi and Museveni family is understandable. In the early years of Museveni, especially when he still had his contemporaries around him, every election calendar, every electoral process provided the country with an opportunity to continue improving its systems incrementally. That's how we moved from a purely military regime to allow some parties to operate. You remember Museveni putting on a council to go to Masaka to begin campaigning as a civilian leader. Of course, later he would carry an AK-47, put on military uniform. And what should preoccupy us, Simon Kabaka Njagala?
Kagwanjala.
Okay, Kagwanjala.
The new name.
What should preoccupy us, especially professors of university, is the quality of elections in Uganda, not the chances that a roadmap or an election calendar provides for individual political parties. That's what we should be debating, not just stamping for us, we are ready. We should be discussing the quality of election that we are able to deliver as a country, that we are able to deliver as an institution to Uganda, and whether we are making progress as a country.
But even before you go to quality,
yes,
would you give it to Electoral Commission for releasing their roadmap in real time?
Do you have an Electoral Commission in Uganda?
Yes, there is.
You've seen Mr. Museveni in the case of Bukedea. Museveni, who is very mischievous most of the time, is now the one complaining that there were electoral malpractices in Bukedea, ordering arresting of people. One of the crimes is that they voted for Wananchi, who turned up in the morning. The NRM team, which he heads, this professor, Tanga Odoi, voted for voters. They turned up at the polling station when voting had ended. Tanga Odoi was there physically. It is not Electoral Commission that is complaining. It is not Electoral Commission that seeks to... It's not even voters. Not Electoral Commission that seeks to clean up. So the Electoral Commission in Uganda works like any other institution captured by Museveni. If Museveni says in Oyam there are problems, then he will order a state house unit headed by military to go and investigate and even arrest people. In fact, elections in Uganda are conducted by Museveni. This Electoral Commission is just giving him a hand, but elections are conducted by Museveni. So that's why I said I am more interested in the quality of the election that we are going to give to the country, more interested in the fortunes of my political party. Because if you have good elections, you've laid the foundation for the country to develop. And that quality election is what will give you an opportunity to build institutions of state, quality institutions of state, and that's what will stop Mr. Museveni and his family. You're speaking about Hon.Ssemuju returning from Russia. They were just escorting a family. You saw where you have a Minister for Trade and Tourism. It was Ruawogo who marries Museveni's daughter that was presenting him to Serbia, where they are doing tourism. These Hon.Ssemuju were just escorting. And that's why even when you welcome him, he says, no, my head hasn't changed. It would never change. Because what was your role? Just accompanying the family as they go around their business.
Why are you complaining?
So I look at the
I thought we were talking about elections.
I am telling you, we are as a country, we are all captured. Even Hon.Ssemuju is captured. Tanga Odoi, a university professor, is a cheerleader, going to steal elections. Do you think he enjoys it? That I am a university professor and my job is to go and cheat elections, and I go on a radio station and they are ambassading me. The things I can tell you, the things that are happening that they make them to do, no decent person will want to do what Tanga Odoi is doing. Nobody. But we are all captured, we are all victims. He can come here and say, because they are now salivating because another opportunity is coming. So that's why I want to focus my discussion on what we can offer to our country.
Yeah, but
what is it that we can offer to Uganda?
You have increasingly downplayed elections and participated in the same elections.
I have, because in the area where...
Isn't this dishonesty of the highest order?
In the area, Idi Amin told the boxers in Uganda, they are going for a tournament, and he said the referees are biased, the umpires. He said the only way to survive is by a knockout, because there is no way they are going to announce someone who is on the ground a winner. That's what happens. In the last election, I got 50 47,000, the NRM candidate got 4,000.
You rigged.
4,000.
It was a knockout.
Tanga says you rigged.
So there is no.
Tanga says you rigged.
There is no way they are going to allow. They are going to announce someone on the ground as a winner.
Ssemujju.
Yes.
In 2012, when we had the by-election in Kasese, and I won the NRM candidate hands down, Museveni looked for an army man to complain. And they went, I'm told they went to court and the judgment was passed ex parte. After I had even been sworn in, I heard they were still counting votes at the Electoral Commission office.
Where?
In Kasese. I moved from here, went to Kasese to find the entire election, presiding officers and these officers from Electoral Commission at the office of Electoral Commission. I said, guys, what are you doing here that we are still counting? What are you counting? May I have no agents there? I went and mobilized my people. They closed their offices. Museveni complained that I had won. And they didn't know how I won the elections. They wanted to go and verify whether really the margin of 39,000 that I had given their candidate was a real margin. These ones.
So if you want us to discuss the roadmap, that's the context under which we must be discussing.
Okay,
If you look at
come sunshine, there's going to be an election in 2026.
If you look at the
And they will
proposal
participate.
by the Electoral Commission, the entire electoral cycle, starting with the preparations last financial year through to 2026, the requirement is 2.4 trillion shilling. That's what they require.
In the strategic plan, yes.
In the strategic plan. But the number of electoral offices are also increasing. I think the last time they appeared before our Committee on Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, it was close to 2 million. I think now they will go beyond 2 million, including useless structures that will meet only the purposes of the election and they will never meet again. Women council in the villages, youth, the people with the disability, the elderly, etc. The same way that Mr. Museveni runs the country is the same way that he runs the elections. When people are complaining of poverty, he will throw 1 trillion at 44 million people and he will say, all of you now, you can become rich. Sometimes he will send his brother under Operation Wealth Creation. Even with the elections, now I think he wants everybody to participate. Because if you have 2 million offices for which to choose leaders, and you have 4 candidates from each of the political parties, it means a quarter of the population will be participating in the elections. Reforms are not just reforms for free and fair elections, but also someone sensible should see that we are in a crisis. The intern doctors, you can't sustain them because you have no money.
But Honorable, isn't it odd that the Electoral Commission has come out with a very good document, laid it on table? The best you can now do is to start engaging the Electoral Commission for a better exercise.
You see, I have told you the Electoral Commission is not in charge. In fact, things are getting worse, at least under Aziz Kasuja. Because I remember I was still in the media, Aziz Kasuja writing to Mr. Museveni and telling him, if you don't remove your guards, at that time I think it was a Presidential Guard Brigade from Rukunjiri, I am not going to organize the elections there. But Byabakama is not different from Chigundu. There was a time when I was an observer, Chigundu was launching a referendum, and he was nearly kneeling before Museveni. I don't know what's wrong with the Makerere professors, because that was also a professor of engineering at Makerere. These days you are really ashamed. Chigundu was nearly, okay, yes sir, at a press conference, you came back laughing. The chairman of the Electoral Commission, he went to launch a referendum campaign in the State House. And I don't think they are different. So things are getting worse. That's why in Uganda today, the only meaningful engagement would have been with the person causing all this trouble, not his agents. And that's why you saw the religious leaders, the Situation Room women, the elders forum, all pleading with Mr. Museveni. They know where Byabakama sits. That's what I told Parliament the other day. I asked Parliament, can Mr. Museveni publish a list of his relatives and you know who is in charge of what? Because you wake up and see an MP going to Mohos that he wants to develop his constituency, yet he knows where the Minister of Finance is. But they know there is nothing. They have to walk to the sun.
Well, thank you very much. In the midst of all these questions that are brewing as we get to 2026, what kind of sober conversation, Honorable Winnie Kiza, can the country hold to ensure that there is at least a semblance of a free and fair election?
You know, Kagwanjala, the country has been demanding for electoral reforms. And I think the one time we came closer to speaking one voice was in 2012, when all political parties, including civil society organizations, came out with what they called the Citizens' Compact on Free and Fair Elections. And in that document, they were talking about the necessary reforms that were required. They talked about the quality of elections. They talked about the removal of the military into the electoral processes. They talked about so many things. Of late, people are talking about preparing the country for a transition, which they think is also equally very, very important. Louis here talked about the laws that were, the recommendations that were given by court to the executive. In 2017, when they were bringing that motion of amending the constitution, actually they said they wanted to deal with the issues that were recommended by court. But along the way, all the issues that were recommended by court did not see themselves, they didn't see themselves into the document.
How about the change of name?
Of the Electoral Commission. That was also a request by the Citizens' Compact on Free and Fair Election. There was a change just of the name from Electoral Commission to Independent Electoral Commission, but how independent the Electoral Commission would be was now the issue. Because if it was to be an independent Electoral Commission, was the independence just in the name, or it was supposed to be in practice? Listening to what Ssemujju is saying, and the practice that I know is that the Electoral Commission is actually not independent. It's an Electoral Commission that is selected by the President. If there is anything they do, it is the President who must direct it. And so they just earned the name of Independent Electoral Commission, but they did not retain their independence. And so going to the election of 2026, I will still say as long as the Electoral Commission is serving the interests of President Museveni, because all odds will be towards retaining the President Museveni's people and himself into leadership.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, and so it is not just about the name of saying we have an Independent Electoral Commission. The Independent Electoral Commission must be seen to be independent. That's one of the reforms that we think should now appear.
Well, we're taking a very short break, and when we return, Dr. Tanga Odoi will be giving us his evaluation of where things stand. A dispirited opposition, a questionable electoral commission, and an NRM that has been winning by elections, much as they've been disputed. Could the 2026 be an election for the NRM to lose? That and much more after the break.